Welcome. Lessons from Ramayana. Are you a Ramayana fan? Yes, you. So. You probably like Ramayana more after this weekend than before this weekend. Familiar painting. This is a Sadbhuja painting. It's a form that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed. Of course, different versions, Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita, but he showed the six-armed form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The Danda and the Kamandalu, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, Krishna's with the flute, and Ramchandra with arrow and bow. So one Supreme Lord in these three different forms, but simultaneously. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fainted. The expansion of Krishna, the first expansion of Krishna is whom? First expansion of Krishna is Balaram. First expansion of Krishna is Balaram. And the first expansion or immediate associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Lord Nityananda. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, to explain about Lord Nityananda, explanation is given first of Balaram because they're non-different. They're non-different. So in Adi Leela chapter 1, we find the following statement. Balaram, the first direct manifestation or expansion of Krishna, is the original spiritual master. Nice painting of Balaram. Or the Adi Guru. There's another term that's used. Akhanda Guru Tattva. Akhanda Guru Tattva. Tattva, or the truth, the reality, the substantial fact of the complete and undivided principle of Guru. Adi Guru or Akhanda Guru Tattva. And in Krishna Lila, that's Balaram. In Gaura Lila, that's Lord Nityananda. And in Ram Lila, Lakshman. So that's our topic for this evening. Lakshman, the principle of Guru in Ram's Lila. Now others also perform, particularly Hanuman performed because it's a function, but the original is the original. And the function of Guru in the world today is an expansion or empowerment by Adi Guru, the little expansions of the principle. We find Lord Ramachandra leading the way, Sita following Lord Ramachandra, and behind both of them is Lakshman. He's the servant of the servant of the servant. That's Lakshman's mood. And that's the mood of the Guru, who is the servant of the servant of the servant. In the name-giving ceremony, Vishishta gave Lakshman his name and explained Lakshmi Sampanna, or he will be enriched with service mood. And sure enough, he, A to Z, he was immersed here in this painting. He's cooking. Sita's not cooking, he's cooking. And he's cooking for both of them and making nice offerings, building a nice cottage. There's this, when they reached a certain place, Panchavati, Lord Ramachandra identified the place where he wanted a cottage to be built, and the service was given to Lakshman, and he said to Lakshman, you make a place that's suited for all three of us. And Lakshman replied, I'll make a cottage that's suited for you, and I'll be happy. Whatever you're happy with, I'm happy with. So Ram was pleased very much. And here's a painting. It's a B.G. Sharma painting. It shows Sita's doing the cooking. But Lakshman did the cooking. And during a particular scene, when they're first going into the forest, of course in Chitrakoot they also built a cottage, he's speaking about the difficulty that Bharata must be undergoing back in the kingdom, feeling separation from Ram, and undergoing that he knew that Ram would be undergoing, matted locks, wearing tree bark. Something's wrong with this microphone. Is this the newer one? This is the newer one. Okay. We'll pretend it's working. So as a servant, he's not instructing Ram, hey, Ram, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? In a very graceful, diplomatic way, he's encouraging Ram, kill the demons, because there's demons in the forest. We heard, well, those who are familiar with Ramayana, he made some commitment to Sutikshna. There was a whole pile of bones in the back of his ashram, and Ram committed, I will rid the forest of these Rakshasa demons that are busy eating the bodies of the Brahmanas. And there was some question from Sita, how can you make a vow? They haven't done anything to you. And his reply is, the kingdom of the Ikshvaku dynasty is the whole world. And the forest is part of that whole world. And it's our duty, the Ikshvaku line, to give protection to all those who seek shelter. And they sought shelter, so it's my obligation. It's my religious duty. And so he did. Towards the end of their stay, there's a very nice conversation where Lord Ramachandra says to Lakshman that somehow I'm not missing the affectionate association of Dasrath due to how nicely the fatherly-like way that you're providing service for me. You're relieving not only my needs, but my emotions by your very wonderful service. So very affectionate exchange between the two. Because we often say like this in the Hare Krishna movement, we have mother and father, and the spiritual master is like the spiritual father unto the disciple. So Ramachandra isn't receiving Diksha from Lakshman, but he's receiving good instruction, we'll see, although it's a little delicate for the guru to be instructing the object of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, but he does so very delicately and expertly for the purpose of fulfilling the mission. He does like this at least twice. We'll refer to this evening. So after some time, they were in the forest together. Their period was 14 years. Anybody know the reason behind why 14? Is that a magic number, or how did Kaikeyi pick that number? Anybody know? There's a few explanations. The one that's a very simple one is just as it's part of Vedic law that the eldest son becomes the inheritor of the kingdom or the property of the father. However, if that kingdom is not acted upon within the period of 14 years, then that eldest son forfeits his property of the father. Well, so at the end of 14 years, the bell would ring, and Ram would lose his right to become the next king. So he couldn't challenge, by law at least, he couldn't challenge Bharata. But then it was a very clever arrangement because Bharata ruled on Ram's behalf. Here's his shoes. He's the king. I'm ruling. I'm the subordinate king assisting the king. Whatever you call him, the subordinate king, the helper of the king, the vice king, viceroy. So towards the end of the 14 years, while they're living at this place, Panchavati, that was suggested for them by one great sage because of its beauty, along came Shriparnaka. And Shriparnaka had the capacity to be shape-changing. And so she turned herself into a very beautiful woman. And being very lusty and uncultured, she went bouncing up right in front of Ram and said, "Please marry me." You know, didn't beat around the bush. No formalities, just woo, 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 let's get married. And Ram laughed. And he said to her, well, she gave up, I have mystic powers, we can go flying here and there and, have a nice time together, being married together. He turned to Sita and said, "But I'm already married. And you see that young fellow over there? His wife isn't with him. So why don't you go ask him if he would marry?" Here's a painting of, she's now looking a little different than the other painting, but he's gesturing to Lakshman. And the commentators say it's Lord Vishnu indicating that Guru is to be approached first. Don't approach Vishnu without first approaching Guru. The Sanskrit of his words presented here, and the summary is Vishnu directly. Approach Vishnu through the Guru. And in turn, so she went just right in front of Lakshman and said, "Whoa, whoa, let's get married." That was pretty quick. And Lakshmana indicated that Shriparnaka should not worship him but Lord Ram. That's not exactly what he said, but I'm not so qualified, he's so qualified. Go to him, he's the qualified one. Could we do this? There's going to be some people coming in towards the end. If we could all kindly get uncomfortable for about a half a minute, especially the people in the middle, A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Oh, very good. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. Okay. So she went back to Ram. She left in front of the marriage proposal with Lakshman and back to Ram and said, "There's only one thing standing between you and me, and that's her. So I'm going to devour her, and then you can marry me, because she won't be the obstacle anymore." And so she meant it, and she started lunging for Sita. And Ram called for Lakshman, "Stop her!" And immediately, because Lakshman only likes to do what Ram likes him to do, he stopped her. And he cut off her nose and her ears. And her bloodied face looked very ugly. She was somewhere between beautiful and ugly. Commentary says like this. There are three things. The guru function. Guru's role is to remove the false shelters of an untrained soul. Shriparnaka is certainly an untrained soul. And she was proud of her beauty, so he took care of that. He made her no longer beautiful. And when there's an untrained soul, and the untrained soul is about to harm the property of the Supreme Lord, to speak of Sita herself, Lakshman stepped in. Of course, he did so under Ram's instruction, but it's the natural function of Guru to do like this. And unhesitatingly, as soon as the Supreme Lord gives some indication, the dedicated follower of the Supreme Lord is ready to do whatever the Supreme Lord wants. Just hearing Prabhupada give an explanation this morning because there was an educator, professor, personality in London who was familiar with Bhagavad Gita. In fact, in the course of the conversation, he described that he had taken his whole group of students to the Buri Place temple. And he was watching very carefully to see what their response would be. And he said, even the most, I forget, he used some adjective, hard to deal with students, uppity students and critical students, their experience at the temple was so positive. They were participating in the kirtan, they were dancing, and normally they're standoffish and, arms across the chest, critical of anything and everything. But that demeanor melted. And he interviewed students afterwards, and they said universally, everyone was so nice. So it's important to be nice. It's important to be nice. I mean, it's not just, cosmetic. It's important to be nice because the character and quality of the devotees attracts devotees. Or say it the other way. The bad character of a devotee can push people away that are otherwise happy to be with the devotees or happy to be in the bhakti process. You ladies that just came in, attention. You ladies that just came in, come sit forward, because some people will sit where you want to sit, but they can't sit there if you're already sitting there. It's just good math. Thank you. So, there's a purpose. Lakshman shows a purpose. Whatever Ramachandra wants. Oh, you were speaking about this educator. And Prabhupada was saying, these Western disciples of mine, they have become like that because of this process, the process of chanting. And they didn't know anything from anything before, and they were also inimical. He repeated something he heard many times repeated what he heard from some priests, both on the West Coast and the East Coast. But some priest spoke to him on an airplane and said, all your students look bright-faced. And they're the same people. There's so many young people coming to your temples. These are our boys, our young men, and our young girls. And they had no interest in coming to the church before. But now they're mad after your process of worship. So what's the magic? What spell did you put over these people? You didn't say that word, but there's something very natural about service that's done where there's some understanding of the object being served and a very joyful process, particularly the joyful process of kirtan. And hearing, as we're doing, hearing directly about the qualities and character of the worshipable object, the Lord Ramachandra in the case of Ramayana, but inseparable from Lord Ramachandra is Lakshman. I mean, he's like his shadow. Wherever Ram went, there was Lakshman. Inseparable. The personality of Godhead and his dear most representative, they're inseparable. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado. So the same. We worship the representative of Krishna on the same platform as Krishna. It's a very interesting discussion. This particular man had a liking for Bhagavad Gita, but he didn't really understand Bhagavad Gita, but he had a liking for Bhagavad Gita. And he said to Prabhupada, in the past month, I read a book cover to cover of a Christian theologian who uses the same terminology as you, because the emphasis is devotion. He doesn't use the word bhakti, but it's devotion. And that's the function of Guru, is to give the personality of Godhead. That it's the Guru function, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, is Swayam Prakash. The function of Krishna is Swayam Rupa, or as we know from the verse from the first canto Bhagavatam, Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam. Bhagavan Swayam. So Swayam Rupa and Swayam Prakash. Swayam is, the original. And the original manifests first this Balaram, and Balaram manifests Krishna, Swayam Prakash. Prakash. He manifests Krishna. That's the Guru function. But he does so as being empowered to do so. That's Guru function. And the function manifested by Guru, is whatever is the desire of the master, that's what he does. Without hesitation, unflinching devotional service. It's a nice word, unflinching devotional service. When Shurpanakha approached him and he gestured to Lord Ramachandra, he said, "Fulfill your purpose by becoming my noble brother's younger wife." And because it's the word of Guru, it doesn't fail. So in her next life, Shurpanakha became Kubja. Did you know that? Our young boy in the front. Tap him on the shoulder. Do you know who's Kubja? Would you like to find out about Kubja? Me too. Kubja, when Krishna was born, where was Krishna born? Where was Krishna born? In the present house of Kamsa. Right. And where was that? Where was Kamsa's headquarters? Mathura, the capital city, right? And so what did Krishna do? The very night that Krishna was born, Krishna's Janmashtami, where did Krishna go? Yes, he went to Vrindavan. Exactly. And then he went to the other side of the river Jamuna in Vrindavan, and then for some number of years, 10 years, 8 months, Krishna was living in Vrindavan. And then Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna, so he sent his Akrura to bring Krishna to Mathura so he could kill him. Previously he had sent many persons, demons, to kill Krishna, but they got killed instead of Krishna got killed. So he wanted Krishna to come to Mathura and he could make sure he could do it himself. So when they reached Mathura, one of the persons who greeted Krishna in Mathura was Kubja. You see her picture here in the screen? She was a hunchback lady. And she came to offer Krishna some very nice fragrances and sandalwood, and put some sandalwood on his forehead and offered him some nice fragrances. And Krishna very happily accepted her offerings. And as you see from the painting, Krishna put his toe on her toe and the tips of his finger underneath her chin, and boop, he straightened her out. So she became tall and beautiful. And this painting shows that she's a little shy, but she wasn't so shy. She, like Shurpanakha, became attracted to Krishna's beauty, as Shurpanakha was attracted to Ram's beauty. And it was, let's get together. Yeah. And Krishna said later. So later Krishna rendezvoused with Kubja. In her previous life, Kubja was Shurpanakha, but by the mercy of Lakshmana, he had purified her sufficiently that now she's eligible to get Krishna's mercy. Mercy of Guru brings one the mercy of Krishna, or through Guru the mercy of Krishna comes, either way you want to say it. So there's some very beautiful paintings where she has nice chambers and Krishna met with her there, and Shurpanakha became, by the utterance of Lakshman, why don't you become his wife? The second wife. So she didn't become married, but she had that kind of a relationship. Now, the topic is Lakshmana as Guru, and one of the things one has to be very careful about, there's 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name, and one should not disregard the instructions of Guru. It's one of the 10 offenses, right? Is it one of the 10 offenses? Guru Avagya, right? You know that one? So that's what Sita did, Guru Avagya. It's a pastime. Sita didn't go into Maya. She was carrying out a pastime inspired by the Supreme Lord. So I like this very much. We said it already. I'll say it again. In relation to Sita, some of the acharyas that comment on Ramayana is the scene of Sita being kidnapped is likened to, or one can understand something about a living entity having a desire separate from the Lord's desire. Because Sita, it's out of character for Sita to desire. She can't. She doesn't. But she did, for Leela purposes. She desired something separate from Lord Ramachandra, at least in Leela. And the something was, she saw the golden deer, and she became fascinated with the golden deer, with all the details about what the golden deer, rainbow colors changing, and this and that. So she saw, and she became attracted. And she spoke to Ram, please get the deer for me. I want to enjoy. And she described how she wanted to enjoy. Lakshman, you see his body language, he's in disbelief. I don't trust this. This is a Rakshasa trick. Whoever saw a deer that looks like this is not a deer. This is a Rakshasa trick. Don't fall for it. And what did Sita say to that? Nothing. She just ignored him. Absolutely ignored him as if he hadn't said anything. And went on with her plan of how she could enjoy having the deer. And if not having the deer, you can kill the deer. And then we have a deer skin, and we go back to Ayodhya. We can sit nicely on a deer skin. Yuck. That's not Sita. That's another voice. So that started with the fall of the jiva, or the condition that takes living at. We won't say fall of the jiva. People have controversy about that one. The living entity desiring separately from the desire of the Supreme Lord. So she's acting like a jiva that desires separately from the Supreme. She's not a jiva, and she has no separate desire, but she's acting that way for Leela purposes. And then after she gets kidnapped, it's the whole thing of rescuing the fallen jiva that's got caught in the snare of Maya. And then the agents of Maya, like Ravana, etc. It's one of the layers of understanding what happened, or how the drama of Ramayana is likened sometimes to rescuing someone that's gone astray, the wayward jiva. And that offense, we discussed this in relation to Dvita the first evening. An offense leads to anarthas in the heart, leads to further offenses. So her further offense was her harsh words to Lakshman. When Ram, at Sita's insistence, went after the deer, saying, no worries, if it is a Rakshasa, I can easily kill the Rakshasa, and Lakshman will be here to protect you. So bases are covered. I won't be harmed, and you won't be harmed because Lakshman's here. So then the instruction to Lakshman, don't leave Sita's side. So when Sita said what Sita said, that was really cruel, really mean, really nasty, and she said several things and then several things, and Lakshman was crushed at her words. How can you attribute this kind of motivation to me that you're speaking? And she just got stronger with her harshness. So harsh speech to anyone is not okay. Strong speech may be necessary sometimes, but harsh speech isn't necessary. And to Guru, it's a big problem. So she offended in a big way. And so that's something that we heard yesterday. Her misfortune came as a result of offense to Lakshman. There's consequences for aparad. And she did maha aparad to a maha bhagavata devotee. Despite the fact that she was kidnapped by Ravan, and when Ram came and scolded Lakshman severely, he explained the situation, didn't pacify Ram, but he didn't abandon Ram because Ram was heavy with him. He didn't abandon Sita because Sita was harsh to him. Rather, he took the position when Lord Ramachandra, being very, very despondent, being unable to find Sita anywhere, even after Sita had insulted Lakshman so severely, his dedication to Ram didn't change at all. Ram wanted to find Sita. He's there to help Ram find Sita. And there's some negative sadness kinds of emotion, the emotion of separation, transcendental emotion, not the other kind. He's ready to remind even Ram of his higher nature and being resolute in purpose and determination for what? To reunite Sita and Ram. Bringing souls that are wayward and they can't be found, they seem to be lost. So we're often encouraging jivas, don't lose heart, stay with it, practice bhakti nicely, Krishna will help you. Here's Ramachandra. Don't lose heart. Let's go find Sita. Do not lose heart. You must be bold and energetic. A resolute mind can conquer fate, but you must first conquer your weaknesses. Let us make a more thorough search in the forest. Instead of yielding to unavailing sorrow, let us be manly and active. It's a guru function. These kinds of words. No, the person who he's speaking to is kind of a role reversal, because Lakshman understands that he understands clearly that Ram is the personality of Godhead. We read it just yesterday. When Sumantra and Lakshman are coming back after leaving Sita, pregnant, 5 months pregnant, at the ashram of Valmiki, just before reaching Ayodhya, Lakshman speaks some words. Why is he sorrowful? With just his own flick of his fingertip, he can bring annihilation to the whole universe. So why is he feeling sorrowful? He could do whatever he wants to do, yet he's feeling this emotion. So he understands his divinity is the point, but he, Lakshman, moves from one position to another position because of the fluidity of rasa and the Leela itself. So he understands, but he doesn't understand. So it's something like this. The position of Vaikuntha is everyone understands Narayana is the all opulent Bhagavan. He's it. And then in Goloka, they may not understand because they become overwhelmed with the sweetness of their loving relationship with Krishna, so they don't recognize it and they're not even interested. And then there's Ayodhya that's in between. So there's some sweetness and intimacy, and there's some majesty that's also acknowledged by the associates of Lord Ramachandra. So it's a very special place. It's the topmost planet in Haridham, or the Vaikuntha realm. But it's not the same as Golokadam. Here they are searching for Sita in the forest and feel expressions of separation, profound, transcendental separation. And there's Lakshman searching where are the footprints, where are the markings, which way did they go, using his intelligence to find Sita. And several things happen, meeting Kadamba. Kadamba says, go to Rishimukh mountain and make an alliance, a friendship with Sugriva, because one of the things to do when you're in difficulty is make a friendship with someone who has the very same difficulty and work together. Sugriva also lost his wife, and you've lost your wife. So go find him. He's on top of Rishimukh mountain with 4 ministers. You'll find him there. So he goes to Rishimukh mountain, and they're walking below Rishimukh mountain, and there's these 2 dressed in deerskin or tree bark or whatever it is, forest attire, carrying bow and arrows and swords and Kshatriya weapons. So Sugriva is very nervous. Who are they, friend or foe? Hanuman, you're very expert. You please go and find out what the situation is. But assume a form of a brahmana, because if you come before him as a monkey, he'll wonder what's going on. So there are different paintings. This one shows him as a monkey. But when he came before Ramachandra, just seeing, because he's Hanuman and Ramachandra's Ramachandra, he immediately understood he's a friend. And he dropped his disguise and told everything about who he was there representing, and the language in which he spoke, because he was well educated. We heard this the other day. He was educated 2 days ago. He was educated. Who was his teacher? Suryadev, right. How did you know? I thought you know so much about Ramayana. Apparently you do know. You're just being humble. I was a little surprised when I found out, because there's no place in Valmiki Ramayana when it says he went to school, or however it happened. Suryadev became his teacher, but Suryadev was his teacher. And the only indication is, before he leaps, he's offering prayers to his father, Vayu, and to Surya. And he spoke in such impeccable language, just by how someone speaks and the language they use and how they carry themselves. He understood he was an extraordinary person. So what did Ram do? Ram turned to Lakshman, and he didn't directly speak to Hanuman, but he spoke about Hanuman to Lakshman, speaking about everything, his demeanor, his qualities, his speech. And then again, Ram speaking to Lakshman, this is a guru function. The personality of Godhead, in this case Ramachandra, speaks to Hanuman, who's a new Bhakti in the Bhakti program, through Guru. And then Lakshman was to tell Hanuman, as Hanuman said what his function was, he's representing Sugriva, who's in this predicament. Lakshman said what their predicament is. And they were sent by Kabanda to find Sugriva. So you're telling us you're his minister. So can you take us to Sugriva? All this is the conversation of Lakshman, who is interested in finding the wayward Sita on behalf of the Supreme Lord. How many wayward living entities are there in this world? Too many. Innumerable. It's a big service. That's a guru function. And the guru is depending upon the personality of Godhead for the power and the strength and the determination and the everything. So off they go. Hanuman puts them on his shoulders, one on this shoulder, the other shoulder, and jumping up the mountain, and voila, they made it to the top of the mountain. And one of the first things that happened was, we heard this the other day, the first of these classes, they made a bond of friendship because that was the intention. Kabanda had advised from his Gandharva body, make friendship. So there was a formal fire friendship ceremony. And after the friendship ceremony was completed, there's the fire. Then Sugriva, the question was, do you have any idea where Sita went? So they brought out this garment that he's handing. This was the cloth that had Sita's jewels and ornaments and so forth. And when looking at the ornaments, Ram asked Lakshman, do you recognize these? It's not like Ram wouldn't recognize Sita's ornaments, but he spoke to Lakshman. And Lakshman's answer was, well, I don't know about the other things. I never looked above Sita's feet, but those ankle ornaments are definitely Sita's because I only have looked at her feet. That's Lakshman. And I have this slide in twice, so we'll go forward. So here's the scene where they're meeting. It shows they're shaking hands. Ram shaking hands. Now that's an interesting artist. And the person he's shaking hands with is Sugriva, and they're the four ministers. We saw this painting the first evening. It's a nice painting. And there was a mistake made by Sugriva by not recognizing Lakshman, because it's a mistake to honor the Supreme Lord but not honor the intimate associate of the Supreme Lord. Sugriva listened to Dvidvida's advice. He had a reaction or the consequence of taking that wrong advice. He didn't respect. It's another way of saying he disrespected. To not respect when respect is due is a disrespect. So be respectful where respect is due. Commensurate with someone's position. And cultured people know that, and uncultured people don't know that. And uncultured behave in uncultured ways, and they make a mess. And other people see the mess they make, and then they criticize the mess that they made, and they make a mess with that criticism of the mess that was made. And so it goes on. The material world is a very unpleasant place. We heard already, first evening, Dvidvida made the mistake, the offense, both neglecting and disrespecting. And where that was issuing from was his pride. And thinking, Ram's really the important one. Don't pay any attention to Lakshman. That who's a minister, to give good advice. It wasn't good advice, it was an offense. And Sugriva was subjected to the consequence of hearing bad advice. Does it happen in life? Has it ever happened to you? It's happened to me. Bad advice. And then decisions are made based on bad advice, and then there's consequences. And they can be, painful consequences. So be careful who you take advice from. Don't take advice from Dvidvida, for sure. Or someone who's proud. Don't take advice from such a person, because their advice is going to be colored. It can be, directionally all right, but, the refinement is not all right. So take advice from people who are wise and are free from pride. Pride, these two things, pride and envy. That's the lesson. So the commentators say the first time Sugriva got whooped, which was the reaction to his offending Lakshman. Now, Bali was very powerful, but he was going there on behalf of, under the instruction of, Ramachandra and Lakshman with him. But he got whooped because of his offense. The acharyas say the offense was corrected by his bowing down before Lakshman, receiving a garland from Lakshman. You have to bow down a little bit to receive the garland. And indicating, not explicitly, but indicating Lakshman's forgiveness for the offense. I mean, the first time I read this without understanding the nuance, I was really puzzled, because the garland was simply vines, forest vines. And when you put forest vines around somebody's neck and they go into a big fight, what can happen to the vine? It's going to get shredded fast. Oh, so that he can see the difference between the two of them. But when the vine gets ripped off, then how are you going to see the difference between the two of them? It wasn't the vine to see the difference between the two of them. It was this other reason. Then I was happy. It was peaceful. And that's it for the evening. Now, there's the lesson. Go step back. The lesson is, in principle, the representative of an exalted person is to be treated with the same courtesy and kindness and respect as the big person. I mean, it's very sensible. For example, when somebody sends an ambassador from one country to another country, the foreign ambassador or somebody or other. So when that foreign ambassador comes to another country, they're received as if they're receiving the country or the president, because they're representing the country. So honor and dignity goes to the ambassador. And not only honor and dignity, but many gifts. But the honor and dignity and the gifts don't belong to the ambassador. If the ambassador pocketed the gifts, he's got a problem. It's unlawful. It's not for him. It's for the country or the treasury of the country. He receives on behalf of. He's honored on behalf of. So the guru function is like that. Therefore, if someone who has pride and or doesn't have the mood of being completely dependent upon and in service to the master, that's not guru. Someone may take that role, but not have that consciousness, and that's a pretentious position. There was a question, you probably, you can raise your hand. I'm going to explain what was in one of those documents, because there was a question that came. The first demon that Krishna killed was a woman. The first demon that Ram killed was a woman, Tataka. So is there some significance? I mean, that wasn't exactly what the question was. It was a little different, but So one of the explanations by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, yes, Krishna's killing of Putana, represents what happens in the beginning stages of bhakti. There's a teacher to help one go forward in the process of devotional service or process of spiritual life. But there's abundant false teachers, pseudo teachers, and one has to be protected from that. So Krishna's killing Putana was exactly, he says it in 2 of his writings, exactly 3, that Krishna's killing Putana was representing like that. And that's something that Krishna does, but Guru being the alternative, the actual teacher, so the Guru has to be representative of the Supreme Person, transparent representative. That means deliver the message, unchanged message, no editing of the message. Supposing the postal peon example. You've heard that one, right? Postal peon? You know what a postal deliverer is? So peon is kind of like a demeaning term. So postal peon, Prabhupada uses that phrase. The spiritual master is a postal peon. My dear sir, here's a letter. It's got your name on the envelope. It's a message for you. It's called Bhagavad Gita. Please take it. It's for you. So the Guru is one who's the postal peon. It's Krishna's message for a living entity. And he just delivers it, unchanged, unedited, no interpretation or modification or anything. Just deliver the message. The postal peon personality. And any expression of gratitude may go to Mr. Postal Deliverer. Thank you so much. I've been waiting for this letter. You're very kind. So he said, I'm happy to do that. It's my service. It's on behalf of the Postal Department. So the Guru function is like that. And Lakshman exhibits the Guru function. And because the Guru represents the personality of Godhead, the Guru is to be honored. That's one of our Guru Vastakam prayers that we sing when we have Mangalarti in our temples. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the personality of Godhead. And that's not so well understood. I'm just thinking back on this conversation with this educator in London. He was a well-educated man. And he said, Swamiji, what you're saying is true. In the Bible, which I've studied very carefully, there's no mention that Christ is God. He's the representative of God, the confidential servant of God, the Son of God, but nowhere does it say he's God. And I wish that our Christian community would get it. Didn't use exactly that language, but there's some interpretation that's according to their liking, but that's not what it says. That's really prevalent, at least in certain parts of the world. So to honor the Guru as the representative of God is so important, but to honor someone as good as doesn't mean they are. Like the ambassador is a representative of the country, and the ambassador has to have the decorum that represents the country properly, the speech and the decorum, everything, the manners, gentility, culture, everything, to represent the country properly. But nothing goes to him. He's doing something on behalf of, but respect given to him and gifts given to him doesn't. If he's transparent, it all goes to that person or that country or whatever it is that they're representing. Prabhupada gives the example of a representative of a business. If there's some business that's contracted, the contract doesn't go to him; it goes to the company he's representing. And if gifts are given, I mean, I don't know how much people follow this, but it was his point. If gifts are given, it's not. He accepts it. It's bribery, but it's not his. It goes to the company. The company can do with it what they like. They give him a bonus or whatever they want, but he's just representing. That's integrity, and that's a guru function. And for that reason, for all these reasons, guru is to be respected. And the Adi Guru, back to our beginning point, Adi Guru is Lakshman or Nityananda or Balaram. And they're honored as much as the Supreme Lord, who the expansion of is to be honored. And neglecting that brings the problem. And honoring that brings all spiritual fortune, reality, spiritual reality into one's life. So it's a very important principle. That's why I selected the topic. And it's built right into Ramayana, lessons from Ramayana. So there we are. It's one of the shorter classes, but it's sweet. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is one question that I've had. So, for someone who hasn't received the mercy of Krishna or the mercy of Guru, does the mercy of the Guru come first, and then through that they get the mercy of Krishna, or is it the other way around, or simultaneously? Because the reason I'm asking is because for some people because there's an issue of there's many people who claim to be gurus, and you have to identify who is a guru that you should accept. But then I feel like if you just do that on the material plane, then since you're material, and then you're bound to fail. So it seems like then the mercy of Krishna is necessary before you accept a guru. So I'm just trying to understand the proper way for someone who hasn't received either of those.
It's right into this pastime. When Shurpanakha comes, he gestures, she wants him, he gestures to Lakshman. So the starting principle, Adav Shraddha, or I have a sincere desire to become a more spiritual person in this lifetime. So that's the starting point, an eagerness, a willingness. Then Krishna sends. So the sadhu that Krishna sends is Krishna's mercy. So one gets Krishna's mercy in the form of sadhu. They're not separate. Your question is, they're not separate. The answer to your question is, they're not separate. There's a person representing that mercy of Krishna. Now, supposing one is not eager, that preliminary Adav Shraddha is not there, and then sadhu is going here and there, and nothing happens. So it's the turn your receiver on. That's the Adav Shraddha, and then here comes the mercy, Krishna's mercy in the form of.
That makes sense. So, and then I guess just a quick follow-up. Then there clearly are some people who claim to be gurus who don't have the.
They have the authority. They don't have that connection. They don't have the authority. So there has to be some authority behind doing anything.
Right, but then their followers may also have that Adav Shraddha notion first. So then
that's okay. Yeah. They can also be misled.
Yeah.
That's the Krishna killing Putana.
Yeah.
The function of Krishna, the sincere person will be helped. Now, in your case, you were protected by your family, but some persons don't have that protection. I was one, and I, looking around for, and I bumped into. It wasn't such a difficult ordeal. There's a lot of things get ruled out because, without having knowledge of Scripture, it just bounced. I could give some examples, the bouncing examples, but when there is a sincere desire, Krishna will give the intelligence to say yes to something genuine and to say no to something that's a false presentation. I'll give a little example if there's. We'll come back. I'll give the example. So I'm an undergraduate student at a university, busy with school like all students, and a little light went on. There were circumstances involved, but I started, along with my academic pursuit, to move into a career. I want to know who I am. I had some strong desires. I won't go into the whole autobiography. I want to know. And I know that I don't know. But I want to know. So I was in a, know what? Reality with a capital R, who I really am, what my convictions are. Fundamental things. Because I was too busy being successful to think about those things. I said, wait a minute. I want to know. And so I start, Krishna's, arrangements were made for me to bump into different people. So one of the opportunities I had was meeting devotees. But I wasn't like immediately clicked. It was nice. But there was another fellow, a Harvard University professor that had become a spiritual type personality, and he was chanting Hare Krishna. He was visiting colleges, visited our college, and chanting Hare Krishna. And the first of the event I went to, he was saying, he chanted in a very melodious way. And the message was, become one with the chant. Become one with the chant. And I thought, well, that's cool. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what he meant. I didn't know what it meant. It just sounded cool. Become one with the chant. The second time, he explained what he meant. And what he explained was, become one with the chant means, in the beginning, there's you and there's the chant. But as you become one with the chant, it's only the chant. Then I understood what he was saying. He's saying, merge. You become God. I said, forget it, man. I'm out of here. He's poor God. I'm God? I walked. And I didn't know much of anything. It just was intuitive common sense. So that went, checked that box, and so I moved on. And other things. But so it's the main principle is this sincerity, we can say, or faith, or conviction that I want to reach. So some people don't have a strong enough conviction. They have the wrong kind of association, and they buy into it. Becoming one. And it's so common. I'm sure you all run into it. People that say it, they don't even know what it means. They haven't thought it through. What does it mean to become one? It's all one. What does it mean? But it's popular. At least for people that want to become spiritual, whatever that means. It means different things to different people. So Krishna sends something genuine for someone who's sincere. And there may be some tests with something that's not genuine, and you rule it out. But that ruling it out, that's Krishna's protection. That's the killing of Putana example. He'll protect the sincere soul. Okay. Others? You have something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for that amazing class, Maharaj, about Lakshman ji. Maharaj, I was thinking, in case in our Krishna consciousness, the final aim is Krishna Prem. But in case of Lord Balram, from the examples that we saw, like Duvida, he offended Lord Lakshman because he didn't know who he was. So is it true? I was just thinking, is it true that we should request for prema as well as reverence for Lord Balram and prema for Lord Krishna? Because if you forget who Lord Balram is, we might offend Lord Balram.
Yeah, you might offend him. I mean, if the tip of the needle goes in, then the rest of the point of the needle and the shaft of the needle all go. They follow behind. So there's no question, similarly, there's no question of Krishna Prema being disrespectful to Balaram or Lakshman or Guru or the principle of teacher being disrespectful. No question. So it's a subset, or it follows the tip of so.
Because in case of Krishna Leela, we see that his Krishna's friend in Vrindavan, they would fight with him. It is not disrespectful, but
No, it's Leela. It's just love.
Yeah.
They were bringing Krishna happiness. And their happiness was Krishna's happiness. In friendship, friends, not material, but spiritual friendship is like that. There's playfulness. It looks like material, but it's not.
So in case of Lord Balram, we should always, even at the end point of the final realization of life, which is Krishna Prem, even at that point we should have respect for Krishna and Balram both.
Of course. How could it be otherwise?
Because in some examples we
Don't
see...
forget Radharani also.
Thank you. That's...
Anyone else? Yes, the back.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you for the class. I have 2 points. They both are from Ramayana, and one is related to today's class. In our Ayodhya lecture, I remember I heard something when Lakshmana was building the cottage. He had some personal motive which Lord Rama didn't like it. And we had some Acharya's commentary, and Lord Rama says, I'm not very clear on that thing, but something like that I heard from you previously. So just to correct Lakshmana, Lord Rama says something, and then Lakshmana gets it that this is something he should not be doing. Something like that I heard from you before.
Your memory is better than mine. But I'll promise you. You send me a little text message when you put your microphone down, and then tomorrow, not tonight, but tomorrow I'll look it up and find the exact passage. What was the slip or fault or oversight of Lakshman? What did Ram say? And what was it that Lakshman corrected? I'll look it up.
Thank you.
Okay, second.
And the second one is, I have heard that Dashratha gave promise or a word to Kaikeyi that Bharata will be that your son, or maybe to Kaikeyi's father, that Kaikeyi's son will be the king of...
How could he do that? Because it's the eldest son. He's not going to make a promise. He's a follower of Dharma. So I'm questioning the premise of the question. So you do some little homework and find out where is that reference. So there was a time when he was married, and so you're referring to before there were children, just to accept the hand of his wife, but he's not going to make a promise that goes against Dharma. I'm questioning the premise. You see if you can find what it says.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have a little reference on this one? No. Yes, on this one, what she just said.
Not on the second one, but
On the first one, okay. Here's the microphone.
So thank you, Maharaj. The only place I remember Rama correcting Lakshmana was...
This is at Chitrakoot, right?
Yeah, it's at Chitrakoot. But when Bharata tries to come and visit...
No, this is when they're building the cottage.
Yeah, when they're building the cottage, the only thing is actually Lakshmana feels bad for Rama's words. So Rama says that Lakshmana... it's like about building the cottage.
Okay.
And I'm just
you want to get it right, not 50%.
Yeah. So I'll share it tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
I know it, but I just want to make
here's what you do. Put it in a little Word document, send it to me,
Okay.
and I'll find from my reference and put the two of them together. You said, my notes say, and I'll send it to her and send and to Parma Krunik and send it to everybody.
Sure.
I'm not, you know much more about Ramayana than I do.
No.
I know something, but I rely on people that know more than I do to get to be able to present it properly.
Yeah, it's building of the house. I know that.
Okay, so let's find out the detail. Someone else, right next to you. Go ahead. No, you take the microphone. You've got it. You're in the front.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj, for the class. I have a very small question. So when Sri Rama met Hanuman, he recognized him, who he is.
Hanuman recognized Ram.
But Rama also explained Lakshmana that who he is really, right? So
No, he didn't exactly say, who is he really? He said he complimented his qualities, his erudition, his speech, his whole demeanor. The characteristics of this personality are outstanding. He commented about that. No, he's omniscient, so he certainly knew everything. But what he spoke was what I just said.
so then the next question is irrelevant, I guess.
What?
So next question is irrelevant because I thought if he could recognize Hanuman, then he definitely knows where Sita is and he's
Well, he knows where Sita is without searching for Sita. He's omniscient.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you for the great lecture. So there is this Ramayan series that Gauranga Das Prabhuji has also started.
Speak slowly.
Okay.
I have a hard time hearing when people speak very fast, and I don't get all the words.
Okay. So in one of his lecture, Gauranga Das Prabhuji's lecture, he's talking about Ramayan.
Okay.
Like in
he talks about Ramayan a lot.
Yeah. So he mentioned that the four brothers, like Ram, Lakshman, Shatrughan, and Bharat and Shatrughan, they represent Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha that we are surrounded by in our life and like the fight of our life. So I wanted to get your perspective on what you think like they personify, and like maybe you can explain it more. The way he did it, he just said that Dharma and Artha have to be together for us to make progress, and Kama and Moksha have to be together. That's why Ram and Lakshman have to be together and Bharat and Shatrughan have to be together. But that's the only information he has provided. But maybe you can give more information on those four pillars of our Sanatan Dharma and how, like in Ramayan, all these four brothers stand on those pillars.
I think you have to ask Gauranga.
I wish.
Huh?
I don't know.
Paramakaruna, can you send me a text message about this question? Just, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. I'll write to Gauranga and ask him. Because I've never heard this before. It doesn't exactly, there's not a puzzle piece that this fits together with that, so it's real easy. So I don't know what his intention was. It's certainly the two pairs were close together, but how he deduces what he deduced, I'd like to hear it from him. And it might take a couple of days, but as soon as it comes, I'll send the answer to over here, and he'll send it to you. Just make sure he has your email address or somewhere, whatever you sent. Email or WhatsApp, what do you do?
No, we have her contact.
Okay, fine. Anyone else?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Okay, you got the mic.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the class. I have a question about Hanumanji. That his guru was Suryadev. So did Suryadev tell him about Lord Ram? And I'm assuming Hanumanji chants Lord Ram's name. Did it happen when he met Lord Ram, or was he doing that even before he met Lord Ram for the first time? And how did he get to know? And yeah.
How did he get to know that Ram was Ram?
Or even to know about Ram before meeting Lord Ram? Was he chanting Lord Ram's name?
You're asking information that is not in Valmiki Ramayana.
Yeah, maybe.
And I'll just repeat. My understanding is very puny, but my understanding is nowhere except when Hanuman is preparing to make his jump to Lanka, is there even mentioned, what to speak of the details of how it happened that Suryadev became his guru. What to speak of, what did he teach him? Did he teach him about Ram and, et cetera, et cetera? There's no information. He knew Sanskrit. He knew many things, but we don't know what all those things are that he learned when he became the disciple of Suryadev. Which sounds like that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I was also how Gopal had asked, if somebody, how do they get that mercy? He got the mercy directly in front of him through Lord Ram coming in his life. Was it then that
this is my limited understanding.
Yeah.
My limited understanding is because he was so elevated, he was on a mission from Sugriva to discern friend or foe. And he came in disguise. As soon as he was in front of Ram, he could understand. Friend. And so he dropped his disguise and he told all about himself and who he was representing and why he had come before Ram. I mean, many other things too, but his discernment was being in the presence of Ramachandra and just seeing him and having him see him. Truckloads of mercy landed on his head. He was infused with spiritual enlivenment just by being in Lord Rama. And they're eternal associates, by the way. It's just again, together. So it wasn't that there's an intuitive understanding, not necessarily some instruction from Suryadev to understand who Ram was, and then some lights went on because he saw some features like what he heard or something like that. It was an intuitive understanding, being in the presence of the Supreme Lord, and Hanuman being who Hanuman was. Vayu, or the son of Vayu, the representative of Vayu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Is that what you're looking for? Kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. I don't know any place that gives details of how Suryadev instructed him and what departments of knowledge, other than what we that the reference is already made. Something else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question is about a statement or a quote which I read in like other places, and I also saw in one of the slides, which says that a resolute mind can conquer fate. This was spoken when Ram was trying to motivate Lakshman to start the search of Sita. Is there truth to that statement, or that's just to motivate people to just get up and do the work? Because fate, I believe, is destined. It's meant to happen.
I'm not clear about for two things. I'm not clear of what the reference is, but that's okay. If your reference is accurate to what was actually said. To doubt is there veracity in a scriptural statement is called artavad. You know what that means? You think it's exaggeration to pump people up to get them to do something. And you can say it's not correct, or you can say it's stronger, and it's an offense to think like that. Statements in Scripture are not just to pump people up to get them to do something. You saw the glories of this or the glories of that. Specifically, this is spoken of in relation to the holy name. Some people say, think, and then some people say it. The glories of the holy name, or the glories of a holy place, or the glories of something. It's just to get people to go there, or just to get people to chant because it's good for them. So you say a bunch of glorious things. It's not really true. It's just to pump them up so they'll chant because it's good for them. It's exaggeration. The English artavad. It's just an exaggeration. The doctrine of exaggerated praise. So to think Scripture is when it describes the glories of Krishna or the glories of something or a place, the glories of Tulsi Devi or the glories of Ekadasi or the glories of, it's fill in the blank. Those statements that are scriptural are not simply exaggeration to get people to do something. It's a mistake, or it's an offense. Rather, the statements of Scripture, then we have to be really discerning what's Scripture and what's not Scripture. But when it's Scripture, we don't place that specter of doubt on the statement of Scripture. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for an amazing lecture on the Adi Guru. I read, I know you've said your puny level of knowledge of Ramayan, but I know you've done a lot of meditation.
Not like Garanga.
Sure.
I mean, Garanga's got a lot of knowledge of Ramayana.
Right.
I'm not like him.
Sure. But
and there's many other people.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I really like Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Ramayan retold. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So well written.
Something, yes. I was hoping you could enlighten me and correct if it's a misreading. I read in the pastime where Lakshman conveys to Sita Devi about the banishment from Ayodhya or exile.
Yeah.
And I read that in that retelling that was the first time Lakshman
saw her face.
Is that correct?
Yes, it says that.
Amazing. 14 years plus. Second question, I just wanted to make sure that was correct from Valmiki Ramayan. Second, I'm hoping you can provide clarification. Lakshmanji, when he saw Bharat coming into the forest
Oh, with the whole army.
with the whole army,
He was mistrustful.
he was mistrustful and ready to fight with Bharat.
Ready
And Lord Ram
to
corrected
protect
him.
Ram.
But Lord Ram corrected him.
Yes, he sure did.
So I'm thinking of this from the example of, Guru Tattva. How do we understand this? How can we understand?
How can he make a mistake if he's the Adi Guru? That's what your question is?
Since it's Leela, I'm
Yes,
sure it's not a
that's the
mistake.
answer.
Yeah. It was a mode of like chivalry to protect Lord Ram or something.
That's his mood.
Yes.
But so one can have that mood and not misuse it.
Right.
But he, according to the Leela, he was ready to misuse it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like this professor this morning. I was listening to this interview. This not a professor, an educator. It sounded like middle school age or high school age or something like that. Educator, but like a celebrity. He was a well-known name in the whole of England, the whole of London. So anyway, he was using the term Arjuna was misguided, and Prabhupada immediately stopped him and said he wasn't misguided. He then went into who he is, and he was Bhaktosi Me Sakajeti. He was acting as if he was one of us, so he could ask the questions that we would ask, so we could have the answers. And it was induced to do all of that by Krishna. So in the same. He's under the care of the internal potencies. There's no touch of Mahamaya in the life of... So then how is he doing something? Going against his brother and ready to fight his brother. Not just a brother, but, Vishnu Tattva personality. One of the Chaturvyuhas. It's like, come on. It's instructive. So that Ramchandra could give the right instruction in a situation like that. That's how.
Yeah, I thought to advise us to make decisions carefully without the touch of anger.
Yes, and yes.
And then I also thought that through Bharat's life, initially, before Lord Ram invested him with the power to rule the kingdom in his absence, he was so mistrusted by everybody. His intentions were, assumed to be negative.
Yeah, poor guy.
And so in a way, it highlights the glory of Bharat, that even his own brother is mistrusting him.
Yes.
He doesn't lash out in anger, and he falls down at the feet of Lord Ram. So I thought that was another way to try to understand how...
There's layers and layers and layers of lessons. So here's one that, as you were speaking, came to my mind. It's just one of the layers. We want to protect and defend. And sometimes we're not very thoughtful about what that looks like. Pause and be thoughtful before you speak and act. Sometimes, immediate action is required, but many times, thoughtful should precede the action and speech. And in this case, this is an example where he got carried away, or kind of impulsive, with, Kshatriya spirit, and I'm going to protect Ram. And I'm not going to let anything get... So, it was, you had to pause out. Lakshman. So we should all be in the company of persons that are wise and thoughtful. I just went through something without the details, and somebody, da-da-da-da-da-da. Take your time and think it through carefully. And and you think somebody did something wrong, before you just hang them or punish them or condemn them or something, give the person a fair trial, and then give them some instruction. Okay, you say you didn't do that. Here's the line. Please don't cross the line. And if you do, and we can verify you cross the line, there's consequences. So rather than just it's not easy to be an administrator, as you know, or anybody that does administration. It's not easy. And to do things thoughtfully takes more time. And we don't have time, so sometimes expediency rules over propriety. That's not good. Better to go slowly. Sometimes things have to be done. So it's just like the Hanuman crossing the sea. And he acted differently with different obstacles. So we have to be discerning. But yeah. Okay, we're done for this evening. Thank you all for coming. You got the right amount of friends. Yesterday there were too many friends. Maybe it was because it was housewarming day or something. But this is nice. Everybody has a place to sit. Is anybody out back there? Oh. You're hiding back there. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki?
Tomorrow there's a